It is better to rise from life as from a banquet, neither thirsty nor drunken. If life were a game, where's the shame in doing everything we can to win the game? But if life were a one of a kind experience, where's the shame in wanting to take it all in? And if life were both, where is the shame in being uncertain over whether one must play the game or enjoy the moment for what it gives before it fleets away? Or perhaps life were like a banquet, as Aristotle said, so one mustn't go home too thirsty nor too drunk. So one of the first things that came to mind when I was reading through philosophy and I saw that quote from Aristotle was the idea of a balanced life. And I mean, go figure. I think it jumps out the page, jumps out the sentence that the quote talks about the importance of trying to live a life that's as equal as possible in the sense that we work really hard, we meet our responsibilities, and if we're providers, we provide for our families. If you're like me and you're a student, you set yourself up in a situation where you can provide for your own life and for a future family with doing well in school or just developing skills so you can get paid for them to do that. But there's also that other side of it where life is one of a kind in the sense that we all only really get one life. And for me, it became especially apparent when high school ended, when I realized that the training wheels are off now and you go into university, you see the real world for what it is. You feel that pressure and anxiety of how fragile an ideal life can be. One moment you're in high school, you're on top of the world, you're a valedictorian for anyone who was able to get to that point. And the next, it's like back to square one. You go into a real life where things have consequences. If one thing goes wrong or if a sequence of things go wrong in the perfect sequence, it's like you're basically underground and you've completely fallen. So when life is like that and it's so fragile and it's so easy for it to just slip away from our hands, it makes sense as to why a lot of us would want to just enjoy as much of life as possible before it just goes away. And that's even before we talk about the darkness of it, in the sense that we hear it a lot, but it's very difficult to internalize because it hasn't happened. If you're watching this video, it's the idea that today we're here, but tomorrow we might not be. There's no real guarantee to a new day, but it happens so often that it eventually feels like a new day is guaranteed. And in general, when it comes to just wanting to live a life and chasing our ambitions, we do that with the expectation that we'll wake up in the next day. But expectations don't always match guarantees. So one of the first things that I wanted to speak about is we're going to do it throughout the entire video. We're going to try to weigh both up on a scale, and I'll give personal opinions and sort of back them up with anecdotes as I usually do, and give myself my own final verdict on whether I think a balanced life is possible. The first thing we're going to talk about is why life can be seen as a game. We've already touched on it a bit earlier. It's that idea that we want to work hard. We want to work really hard and get the things that we want out of life. And to do that, unfortunately, in a lot of places, you have to compete. I know that for me, when I was in primary school, I had to compete for top spots so that I could get into high schools that I wanted. That didn't end up happening, so I had to pick myself up and try again. When I got into high school, I had to compete again for top spot. I won top spot this time and I was able to get into the universities I wanted to, but unfortunately it wasn't enough and I didn't get the exact degree program I wanted. But anyways, we move. I shifted, I adapted, and I'm here now. And even beyond that, it's just life is so easy for us to just treat like a leaderboard. Because I know you might hear this a lot from people who make similar content to me, but social media really makes it so easy, so dangerously easy for us to just compare ourselves to another person's life and their achievements and things like that. Even if it's not achievements, it could be things that are outside of our control. And I think that's where it gets really scary and really dangerous. And that's the negative side of competition, the general competition against others. On another side, some of us, we can look at another person. I had a discussion with a person before about how competition on its own is not inherently bad. It's what we do with it and how we view competition. We can compete with someone in the sense that we see they're doing something that we wish we could do, and we just try to figure out how they're doing that. So we just try to catch up to their level. Competition can help elevate us to reach new heights and to break through limits just because we're driven to be better than another person or to be a better version of ourselves. I know that for me, if not for competition, I would not have done as well as I did in my matric final year. And in a lot of other places in life, if not for competition, in the sense that I see people online and I realize that there is more to life to take, there is more to life to earn for myself, I wouldn't wouldn't really have the same drive to work really, really hard. But it still doesn't change the fact that when we work really hard and we keep working and we keep toiling away, it's so easy to just let the days slip into each other and just fade into each other and all feel the same. I made a video about it, I think by the time of this one coming out 2 days ago, about why life feels like it's moving so fast. So if you want more context on this specific point, I'd suggest you check that one out. But if life is like a video game, it's going to be like a video game in the sense that every morning you wake up, you drop into the lobby, you do the same thing with a different coat of paint, you do the same thing with different flavors. You go back home and you go to bed. If you live a life like that, it's pretty mundane, even though you're working towards your goals. And that goes into where I lean more towards. I'm not completely on this other side I'm about to bring in, but I lean more towards the idea that we shouldn't forget that life is still an experience. I think in the modern day, it's so easy to forget that life is still life. We see all these high-rise buildings, all these metrics about average performance here, average performance that, how much money you can make a month, how much money you can make a year. Your peers are getting these results in tests, they're getting these results in exams. Some of them are making this much money driving cars, this, that. It's a lot of noise, but beyond the noise, you just sometimes have to just take a break, take a breath, and just remember that the world has color. Something that I really tell myself this year is sometimes I have to remind myself that the world really has color. And one thing that I did before my glasses broke was I used to wear blue light lenses. And the thing is with blue light lenses is that when you just keep putting them on and taking them off, you can notice the difference in color. Like there's this weird little tint, this orange tint to protect you from blue light. So now every time I wore the blue light glasses and I kept taking them on and off, I reminded myself that there's color in the world, that it made me appreciate the greenery of the trees and in some parts of town, the different colors of the buildings. For me, that epitomizes the idea that life is such a creative and such a unique experience, and everyone's day is going to be so unique and different. That's what I get from the different colors. Even beyond that, for me, that blue light filter, when I wore those glasses, it symbolized two modes for me. When I'm in classes and in lectures, I'm there to focus. I see the world through the lens that I'm here to work, I'm here to grind. But when I take them off, when I get back to my room, I remember that there is a life outside of the grind. There are people to meet, friends to make, friends to talk to, people to learn from. There are risks to take in the sense that, as an example, if you're someone who's like me, who for a large part of their childhood, their main priority was school and getting as high a result as possible, it feels very difficult. It feels like there's an invisible barrier that just prevents you from having fun. It prevents you from going to an orchestra the day before a semester test. I did that this week and I was nervous about it. When I was walking up and about to meet my friend to go to the orchestra, even though I told him, hey, I'm gonna come like the week before, I wanted to stick to it, but I was nervous because I was writing economics the next day and I didn't really study as much as I expected to. But if you ask me if I regretted going to that orchestra, I really don't, because I got to hear music live and in front of me for the first time, and not through earphone buds or through a cell phone or through software. And if you haven't before, I'd suggest that you do that. And even previous times, I was never one for partying. And now I'm going to be able to tell you guys with experience, if you're someone like me who likes being in their room or who just doesn't like the loud noises and the alcohol and the dancing and things like that, I can now tell you by experience, you should not go to parties, especially with friends that you're uncomfortable with, even at all. I would say don't go to parties if you're like that. But I wouldn't be able to give you guys that kind of advice with such conviction and such confidence if I didn't just push myself out of my comfort zone just a little bit to experience parts of life beyond just the grind and the toil. But I think when it comes to life being an experience, the most important thing, it's an idea from the picture of Dorian Gray. Because if you read the picture of Dorian Gray, you'll notice there's a difference between, or there's a complete contrast between the idea of hedonism and virtue. What I talk about right now is this idea of hedonism in the sense that for a life to be fulfilling, there was this idea that you needed to really satisfy your senses. You needed to feel, you needed to see, you needed to hear things. And in that sense, I think we shouldn't forget that it's possible for us as human beings to do that, and we need to really foster that for our lives. But most importantly, and I think I'm going to keep droning in on this, and it's a sign that the video is about to end, but most importantly, I really do think that we need to remember that there are friends to meet, there are people to learn from, there's such interesting conversations to have, and even beyond just speaking to people and engaging with society, there's just so many niche little things that you can do outside of the grind that can really enhance your life. Like, there were seasons of my life when I was obsessed with Minecraft and obsessed with the most niche of video games. The point is, like, once you stop looking at life from this optimizer's perspective, you can really start to enjoy life from this idea of someone who's going around at a banquet and just tasting different things, meeting different people, having a variety of conversations and experiencing various things. But while I still lean more onto the side that you should remember to experience life, don't forget to actually work towards building a life that can be experienced. By that, I mean hard work is still important. You can want to travel, for example, but you still need the money to travel. You can want to have off days and days off and days of rest, but you need to earn days like that by working really hard days before or even in that day in and of itself. So to conclude, let's just look at it this way. Because if you were at a banquet and were completely thirsty, it means that an appetite for freedom was not quenched and you could not loosen up to take a break from the game. And once you're lost in the game, you lose the ability to appreciate it for what it is. But if you were too drunk at a banquet, then the freedom it gives becomes so abundant that you lose the ability to truly appreciate it as if you were in the middle. So too much of one thing just completely nullifies the pleasure and joy you get from it. If you're always just going through life for the sake of experience and for the sake of it feels good, eventually you get desensitized to those feelings and your life falls apart because you're not having those feelings and experiences under a foundation. And the modern world expects a foundation. There's nothing much we can do about that. But if you're so stuck and zoned in into the game, for lack of a better term, you may genuinely turn into a robot. It's what happened to me before I got this, I don't want to say insightful revelation, but it's what happened to me until I just forced myself to just find ways to express myself in the sense of writing novels and making YouTube videos. Because if I didn't do that and I just became academic weapon mentals, I wouldn't exist in the sense that I do right now. I wouldn't know as much as I do, and I would not enjoy my life as much as I do right now. So when we look at Aristotle's quote, it's this thing of the golden mean. And I know where I lean on with the golden mean. I try to get as close to it as possible, but in these younger ages, I'm more so of a grinder, but I do try to experience life. I think you should do something similar. Think about the golden mean. Think about that sweet spot between pleasure and hard work and grueling grinds and figure out where you best fit there. But that's all I have for you guys today, and I'll see you.